He dumped his pregnant wife at a gas station. His sister filmed it. His mistress blew her a kiss. They all thought she was broken, desperate, worthless. None of them knew about the $750 million deal she'd closed 2 hours earlier. Their downfall was already in motion. The evening air was thick and heavy when Simone Davis stood outside that gas station with 2 suitcases at her feet. 8 months pregnant, belly round and full with life. And there she was, abandoned like trash on the side of the road. The fluorescent lights from the gas station flickered above her head, casting shadows across her tear-stained face. She could hear the hum of cars passing by on the highway, strangers going about their lives while hers was falling apart in the most public, humiliating way possible. Kwame sat in his black Mercedes, engine running, windows down. His mistress Vanessa was right there in the passenger seat, laughing like this was all some kind of joke. And maybe to them it was. Maybe Simone's pain was entertainment. Maybe her tears were just background noise to their twisted love story. Vanessa had her hair done fresh, nails painted red, looking like she'd already won some prize. And in her mind, she'd taken another woman's husband and felt no shame about it. But it wasn't just Kwame and Vanessa. No, that would have been painful enough. Kwame's sister Bianca stood about 10 feet away, phone held up high, recording every single second of this nightmare. The camera was pointed right at Simone, capturing her standing there, pregnant and broken, capturing the moment a woman's dignity was stripped away in public. Bianca was smiling. Actually, smiling. Like this content was about to go viral, like her brother abandoning his pregnant wife was something to celebrate and share with the world. Kwame rolled down his window further and yelled out, his voice sharp and cold. "You've been nothing but dead weight, Simone. My family was right about you. You don't belong in our world. You never did." His words cut through the air like knives, each one designed to hurt, each one meant to make her feel small. This was the same man who'd whispered sweet things in her ear 3 years ago, the same man who'd promised forever. Now he couldn't even look at her without disgust in his eyes. Vanessa leaned out the passenger window, her face smug and satisfied. She blew Simone a mocking kiss, slow and deliberate, making sure Simone saw every bit of it. "Thanks for keeping him warm, honey," Vanessa said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "I'll take it from here." Then she laughed, that high-pitched, cruel laugh that echoed across the parking lot. The kind of laugh that stays with you, that haunts you in quiet moments. Bianca moved closer with her phone, making sure she got the perfect angle. "This is going straight to the group chat," she said loud enough for Simone to hear. "Finally taking out the trash. About time, big brother." She was already typing the caption in her head, already imagining the likes and comments, already thinking about how this would play on social media. She hit post before they even drove away. The video went live with the caption, "When you finally take out the trash." Within minutes, it started spreading. Strangers at the gas station stopped what they were doing. A woman pumping gas stared with her mouth open. A man buying cigarettes inside looked through the window, shaking his head. They all watched. They all saw. They all witnessed Simone's humiliation. Some pulled out their phones too. Some recorded. In the age of social media, pain is content. Suffering is entertainment. And Simone was tonight's viral moment. But Simone just stood there, silent, hand resting on her belly, feeling her baby move inside her. Tears streaming down her face, but she didn't make a sound. She didn't beg. She didn't plead. She didn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her fall apart completely. She just stood there, breathing, existing, enduring. Kwame revved the engine. Music started blasting from his speakers, and he drove off. Tires screeched against the pavement. Vanessa's laugh faded into the distance as the car disappeared down the highway. Bianca followed in her own car, still recording, still posting, still destroying what was left of Simone's public image. And Simone stood there alone, pregnant, abandoned, humiliated, but she reached into her purse with trembling hands and pulled out her phone. The battery was almost dead, 5% left, but it was enough. She opened her Uber app and requested a ride. While she waited, she touched the envelope inside her purse, a sealed envelope with a corporate logo stamped across the front. If you looked closely, you could see the number printed on the document inside. $750 million. That's what it said. Because 2 hours before this moment, before the gas station, before the abandonment, before the public humiliation, Simone had walked out of a boardroom as one of the richest women in America. What they didn't know was that while they were planning her downfall, she'd been building an empire, and in 72 hours the whole world would know her name. But we need to go back. We need to understand how Simone got here, because this story doesn't start at a gas station. It starts in a small southern town 20 years ago, in a modest home where a little girl learned what real strength looked like. Young Simone grew up with her grandmother, Miss Ruth. Her parents had passed when she was just 5 years old, left her with nothing but memories and photographs. But Miss Ruth took her in, raised her, loved her, taught her everything that mattered. They didn't have much. The house was small, the money was tight, but the love was endless. Miss Ruth worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table and clothes on Simone's back. She cleaned houses during the day and worked at a diner at night. Her hands were always rough from work, but they were always gentle when she held Simone's face. One evening, when Simone was about 12 years old, Miss Ruth sat her down at the kitchen table. She pulled out a small silver locket, old and worn but beautiful. She placed it in Simone's palm and closed her fingers around it. "Baby girl," Miss Ruth said, her voice soft and steady, "I want you to have this. It belonged to your great-grandmother, then your grandmother, then me. Now it's yours." Simone opened the locket and saw a tiny engraving inside. "Your worth is not in what they see, but in what you carry inside." Miss Ruth looked into Simone's eyes and said something that would stay with her forever. "Stay humble, stay kind, stay strong. Real power don't need to announce itself. You hear me? Real power moves in silence. Let people underestimate you. Let them think you're small, but you keep building, you keep growing, and when the time is right, you rise. And when you rise, baby girl, you rise so high they can't do nothing but watch." Simone held that locket close to her heart. She wore it every single day, through middle school, through high school, through the hard times when kids made fun of her clothes or her circumstances. She kept her head down and her grades up. She worked hard, stayed focused, and earned a full scholarship to college. She studied technology and business, spent nights in the library while other students partied, built connections, learned everything she could. That's where she met Kwame. It was at a networking event during her senior year. He walked in wearing an expensive suit, confidence radiating from every step. He came from money, from a well-known family, from the kind of world Simone had only seen on television. He was charming and ambitious, talking about his plans to build something great, to make a name for himself. And when he looked at Simone, she felt seen, she felt chosen, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she'd found someone who understood her dreams. They started dating. At first, it was beautiful. He took her to nice restaurants, introduced her to his world, made her feel special. But when he brought her home to meet his family, everything changed. His mother, Diane, looked Simone up and down like she was something stuck to the bottom of her shoe. His sister, Bianca, whispered loud enough for Simone to hear, "Where did he find this one?" The judgment was immediate and harsh. Diane pulled Kwame aside that first night, but Simone heard every word. "You're marrying beneath you, Kwame. She doesn't belong in our world. She's got nothing, no family name, no connections, no status. She's the girl from nowhere. But Kwame said he loved her. He said none of that mattered. He said they'd prove everyone wrong, so they got married. Simone supported him through everything. When he wanted to start his own business, she used her tech connections to help him get meetings with investors. When he needed advice, she stayed up late working through strategies with him. She believed in him even when his own ideas were falling apart. She poured herself into his success, thinking that's what love was, thinking that's what marriage meant. But his family never accepted her. Every family dinner was a reminder that she didn't belong. Diane would make comments about her clothes, her hair, the way she spoke. Bianca would post photos of family gatherings on social media and crop Simone out of every single picture. They treated her like a temporary inconvenience, like eventually Kwame would wake up and realize his mistake. Then Simone got pregnant. She thought maybe this would change things. Maybe a baby would bring the family together. Maybe becoming a grandmother would soften Diane's heart. But it did the opposite. Kwame became distant. He stayed late at work. He stopped coming home some nights. His family got colder, meaner, more vicious with their words. But while all this was happening, while Simone was enduring their cruelty and her husband's neglect, she was building something they knew nothing about. In the quiet hours, in the moments when she was alone, she'd been developing a revolutionary AI software. Something brilliant, something that could change the tech industry. She'd been working on it for 2 years, coding late into the night, testing, refining, perfecting. A major tech corporation reached out. They'd heard whispers about her work. They wanted to acquire her software. The negotiations started in secret, lawyers, contracts, conference calls. While Kwame was out with Vanessa, Simone would sit in her home office, 8 months pregnant, negotiating deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars, while her husband was texting his mistress in the next room. She had a mentor through all this, Mr. Leonard, an older black executive who'd made it in the tech world and understood what Simone was facing. He'd call her and say, "Don't let them dim your light, Simone. You're brilliant. You're powerful. Sign that deal. Change your life. Change your baby's life. You deserve this." And Simone would hold her grandmother's locket and find the strength to keep going. Meanwhile, Kwame wasn't even hiding it anymore. He brought Vanessa to family dinners. Diane welcomed her with open arms, treated her like the daughter-in-law she'd always wanted. They'd sit around the table laughing while Simone sat at home alone, feeling her baby kick, wondering how her life had become this nightmare. One night, Kwame emptied their joint bank account, just took everything and left her with nothing. Then he came home with divorce papers and threw them on the kitchen counter. "Sign these," he said, not even looking at her. "It's over." Diane called her the next day and said, "You have 1 week to leave our son's house, pack your things, disappear." Simone was numb, 8 months pregnant, being thrown out of her home, abandoned by her husband, rejected by his family. But the very next morning she put on her best dress, put on her grandmother's locket, and walked into a corporate boardroom downtown. The CEO was there, the lawyers were there, the contracts were spread across the table, and Simone sat down and read every single page. $750 million. That's what they were offering for her AI software. $750 million for the work she'd done in silence, while everyone around her called her worthless. She held the pen in her hand and felt her baby move inside her. She thought about Miss Ruth, about that locket, about everything she'd endured, and she signed her name. The CEO stood up and shook her hand. "Ms. Davis," he said with respect in his voice, "you just changed the tech industry. Congratulations. You're going to inspire a generation." The lawyers congratulated her. The executives congratulated her. And Simone walked out of that boardroom with $750 million to her name. She went home to pack. Kwame and his family were already there, throwing her belongings into suitcases, talking about her like she wasn't even in the room. "Finally getting rid of this burden," Bianca said, laughing. Diane nodded in agreement. "My son can finally be with someone worthy of him." Kwame loaded her suitcases into his car and said, "I'm taking you somewhere tomorrow, and don't embarrass me." That somewhere was a gas station on the edge of town. That somewhere was the place where they thought they'd break her completely. That somewhere was the stage for their biggest mistake. After the Uber picked her up from that gas station, Simone went to a hotel. She sat in the room alone, hand on her belly, and cried, not because she'd lost Kwame, not because his family had rejected her, but because she'd given so much of herself to people who never deserved it. She cried for the version of herself that thought love meant shrinking. She cried for the woman who'd dimmed her own light trying to make others comfortable. But then she stopped crying, looked in the mirror, and made a decision. She was done being quiet. She was done being invisible. It was time to rise. 72 hours later, the entire city was talking about the biggest tech acquisition of the year. News outlets were covering it. Business magazines were writing features. Social media was exploding with the story of a young black woman who'd just become one of the richest people in America. And that night, there was a gala. A celebration. All the major players in business and tech would be there, including Kwame, who was desperately trying to network his way into a new job after his own business had started failing. Kwame walked into that gala with Vanessa on his arm, both of them dressed up, trying to look important. Diane and Bianca were there too, mingling, pretending they still had status and influence. They had no idea what was about to happen, no idea that the universe was about to deliver justice in the most public, devastating way possible. The lights dimmed and the host walked onto the stage, microphone in hand. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight we celebrate innovation, brilliance, and groundbreaking achievement. Tonight we honor the biggest tech acquisition of the year, a deal worth $750 million. A deal that will change the landscape of artificial intelligence forever. Please welcome to the stage the brilliant mind behind NeuroSync AI, Ms. Simone Davis." Kwame's champagne glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. His face went pale, all the blood draining from his skin. Vanessa looked confused, like her brain couldn't process what she was hearing. Diane grabbed the table to steady herself. Bianca's mouth fell open, phone in her hand, frozen, and Simone walked onto that stage. 8 months pregnant, glowing, radiant, wearing a stunning dress that showed her belly with pride. Her grandmother's silver locket rested against her collarbone, catching the light. She walked with grace and confidence, head held high, every step deliberate and powerful. The room erupted in applause. People stood up, cheering, celebrating her. Camera flashes went off like lightning. Screens all around the venue lit up with her face, her name, her achievement. The host continued, voice filled with admiration. "Ms. Davis just closed a $750 million deal, making her one of the youngest black female tech billionaires in history. Her work in artificial intelligence is revolutionary, and tonight we celebrate not just her success, but her incredible journey." More applause, more cheers. The energy in the room was electric. Simone stood at the microphone and smiled. Not a smile of arrogance, but a smile of peace. She looked out at the crowd, at all the people celebrating her, and then her eyes found Kwame, found Vanessa, found Diane and Bianca. They were sitting there in shock, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to process that the woman they'd thrown away like garbage was now standing on stage as a billionaire. Simone spoke, her voice calm and steady. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This platform, this work, it's built on something deeper than just technology. It's built on resilience, on believing in yourself when nobody else does, on knowing your worth even when the world tries to convince you you're worthless. She paused. Let those words sink in. There were people in my life who doubted me, who told me I was nothing, who treated me like I didn't matter, who abandoned me when I needed them most. The room was silent now, everyone hanging on her words. Simone continued, "But I want to thank those people, because you made me stronger. You made me focused. You made me realize that sometimes the people who abandon you are doing you the biggest favor. They're removing themselves from your destiny because they were never meant to walk with you to greatness." Kwame sat frozen in his chair, unable to look away, unable to escape. Vanessa's face had gone from confident to terrified. She was realizing slowly that she'd hitched herself to the wrong person, that she'd mocked and humiliated a billionaire, that her cruelty had been recorded and would follow her forever. Bianca's phone started buzzing uncontrollably, notifications flooding in. People were finding that gas station video, but now with context. Now they knew who Simone was. Now they knew what she was worth. The comments were brutal. "You filmed yourself mocking a pregnant billionaire? What kind of person does this? This family is disgusting." The video that was supposed to humiliate Simone was now destroying them. Security guards quietly approached Kwame's table. One leaned down and whispered in his ear. His business partners had seen the gas station video. They'd seen what he'd done. They wanted nothing to do with him anymore. Deals were being canceled. Contracts were being terminated. His reputation was being shredded in real time. Simone finished her speech with grace. "I hope my story inspires every woman who's been told she's not enough, every person who's been underestimated, every dreamer who's been counted out. Your worth is not determined by how others treat you. Your power is not given to you by anyone. It's already inside you. You just have to believe it." She placed her hand on her belly. "And to my daughter, who's about to enter this world, I want you to know that your mother never gave up, even when it hurt, even when it was hard, even when they tried to break me. I rose, and you will too." The applause was deafening. People were on their feet, some with tears in their eyes, moved by her words and her story. Simone smiled one more time, touched her grandmother's locket, and walked off that stage with her head high. She didn't look back at Kwame. She didn't acknowledge his family. She didn't need to. Her success was the only response necessary. In one moment, everything had shifted. The woman they'd thrown away like trash had just become untouchable. The woman they'd humiliated in public had just humiliated them back without even trying, because karma doesn't need help. It just needs time. The fallout was swift and merciless. Within days, Kwame's life completely fell apart. He lost his job when the gas station video went viral with full context. Every news outlet picked it up. "Man abandons pregnant billionaire wife at gas station." The headline was everywhere. His face was everywhere, and nobody wanted to be associated with him. Business partners dropped him. Investors pulled out. The company he'd been trying to build collapsed completely. He went from being someone with potential to being unemployable overnight. Vanessa disappeared faster than she'd appeared. When she realized Kwame had no money, no status, no future, she was gone. She called him one last time and said, "I thought you had money, Kwame. I thought you were someone important. What am I supposed to do with a broke, disgraced man? We're done." And she hung up. Just like that. The woman he'd left his pregnant wife for wanted nothing to do with him now. The woman he'd chosen over his family had no loyalty when the money dried up. Kwame tried to call Simone over and over again, but she'd blocked his number. He showed up at her new office building downtown, a beautiful high-rise with her company name on the side. But security stopped him at the entrance. "Ms. Davis left specific instructions," they told him. "You're not allowed on the premises. You need to leave." He stood outside, looking up at the building, realizing everything he'd thrown away. realizing the empire she'd built while he was busy destroying their marriage. With nowhere else to go, he moved back in with his mother, back to his childhood bedroom, back to being dependent on the same woman who'd encouraged him to leave Simone in the first place. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Bianca's life unraveled too. Her social media followers turned on her completely. People dug up every cruel post she'd ever made, every nasty comment, every petty jab at Simone. Her sponsors dropped her. Companies that had partnerships with her cut all ties. "We don't associate with bullies," they said in their public statements. She tried to delete the gas station video, but it was too late. It had been downloaded, reposted, shared millions of times. It would follow her forever. She got confronted in public by strangers who recognized her. "You're the one who filmed that pregnant woman," they'd say with disgust. She couldn't go anywhere without someone reminding her of what she'd done. Diane felt the social consequences too. Her wealthy friends, the women she had brunch with, the charity circles she ran in, they all distanced themselves from her. "How did you raise a son who abandons his pregnant wife?" they whispered at events. "What kind of mother encourages that behavior?" Her charity board asked her to step down. "Your presence is becoming a distraction," they said politely, but everyone knew what they meant. "You're an embarrassment. You're toxic. You need to go." She realized too late that Simone had been the key to everything. That quiet, humble woman she'd looked down on had been the one with the real power all along. And now that power was gone, and so was any chance of her family recovering their reputation. Kwame tried one last desperate move. He showed up at Simone's lawyer's office with flowers, with apologies, with tears. "I made a mistake," he told the receptionist. "I need to see her. I need to fix this. We can work it out, please." But Simone's lawyer came out instead, handed him a folder and said, "Ms. Davis wants you to sign these. They're the finalized divorce papers. Sign them and move on with your life." Kwame stood there holding the folder, hands shaking. "Can I at least talk to her? Can I explain?" And then Simone appeared from a back office. She walked over calmly, looked him in the eyes, and said something he'd never forget. "You taught me something, Kwame, that I never needed you. I just needed to believe in myself. You did me a favor when you left me at that gas station. You freed me from a marriage that was holding me back from my destiny. So thank you. Now sign the papers." Her voice wasn't angry. It wasn't bitter. It was just done. Finished. Over. She'd moved past him completely. He was a chapter in her life that had already ended, a lesson learned, a mistake corrected. Kwame signed the papers with tears streaming down his face, realizing he'd thrown away a queen and kept the jester, realizing he'd had everything and lost it because of his own pride and foolishness, realizing that some mistakes you don't recover from. 6 months passed. Simone had given birth to a beautiful baby girl. She named her Ruth, after her grandmother. Little Ruth had her mother's eyes and her great-great-grandmother's spirit. Simone sat in her home office one afternoon, Ruth sleeping peacefully in a bassinet beside her desk. The room was bright and warm, decorated with photos of Miss Ruth, with the silver locket displayed in a shadow box on the wall. Simone was on a video call with a group of young black women entrepreneurs. She did this once a week now, mentoring, sharing her story, helping others rise. One of the women on the call asked, "Ms. Davis, how did you stay strong through everything? How did you keep going when people were tearing you down?" Simone smiled and looked at her daughter, then back at the screen. "You have to understand something. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. People are going to doubt you. People are going to underestimate you. People are going to treat you like you're nothing. But that's about them, not you. Build in silence. Stay focused. Keep your head down and your vision clear. And let your success make the noise. When you rise, rise with dignity. Don't seek revenge. Don't chase validation. just rise, and when you do, karma handles the rest. The women on the call nodded, taking notes, absorbing every word. Simone had become more than just a successful businesswoman. She'd become a symbol of resilience, of quiet strength, of justice. Her story inspired millions. Young girls saw her and believed they could do anything. Women who'd been betrayed saw her and found the courage to rebuild. People who'd been counted out saw her and refused to give up. After the call ended, Simone picked up Ruth and walked to the window. Outside was a beautiful garden she'd designed herself. In the center was a tree she'd planted a month after Ruth was born. Next to the tree was a plaque that read, "In memory of Miss Ruth, who taught me that roots matter." She'd planted that tree as a reminder that everything she'd become, everything she'd achieved, it all started with the foundation her grandmother had built. The values, the strength, the wisdom. Simone held Ruth close and whispered, "Your great-great-grandmother used to tell me that real power moves in silence. She said, stay humble, stay kind, stay strong." And she was right. They thought I was weak because I was quiet. They thought I was nothing because I didn't fight back. But I was building, baby girl. I was always building. And when the time was right, I rose. And they had no choice but to watch. Ruth stirred in her arms, tiny hands reaching up. Simone kissed her forehead and smiled. She didn't need revenge. She didn't need to see Kwame suffer. She didn't need Vanessa to apologize, or Bianca to beg for forgiveness, or Diane to admit she was wrong. She didn't need any of that because she had peace, real peace, the kind of peace that comes from knowing you survived, from knowing you rose above, from knowing you became exactly who you were meant to be, despite everything they did to stop you. She looked at her grandmother's locket on the wall one more time and read the words engraved inside her heart. Your worth is not in what they see, but in what you carry inside. And she finally understood. She'd been carrying greatness inside her all along. She'd been carrying strength, brilliance, power, and nobody could take that away. Not Kwame, not his family, not anyone. The lesson was clear, simple, and powerful. Never dim your light for people who can't handle your shine. The ones who walk away from you weren't meant to walk with you to your destiny. They were meant to teach you a lesson and then disappear, so you could become who you were always supposed to be. Stay focused, stay humble, stay building. Your haters are temporary, but your legacy is forever. Your pain is temporary, but your power is permanent. And when people try to break you, let them, because what they don't know is that you're not breakable, you're not destroyable, you're not stoppable. You're a queen, and queens don't chase, queens don't beg, queens don't break, queens rise. And when they do, the whole world has no choice but to bow. Remember, your haters are your biggest motivators. See you in the next one. Peace.